into a Tuesday, December 10th edition of Daily Faceoff Live, streaming live over on the Daily Faceoff YouTube and presented by Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Tyler Yaremchuk and Colby Cohen with you once again as Frank wraps up his couple of days at the Board of Governors meeting. Colby, how are you doing?
You know, today got off to a bit of a rocky start, and I just want to say yesterday the shots were fired at Johnny Lazarus. Today, they're going to be fired at producer Vic because the show here at noon seems to be streaming live, working no problems. But for some reason, the 9 a.m. show did not work. But we did spend about an hour and 15 minutes recording with Jeff Marek. We talked a lot about a lot of different things, talking about Minnesota, Buffalo, New York, coaches. We kind of went through a bunch of really big topics. Jeff stayed on with us for almost the entire hour. That will be coming out on YouTube as soon as producer Vic gets back from vacation and gets his stuff together. And it will be on audio only podcast, wherever you get your podcast. So that's how my day started, Tyler.
First off, shout out to my boy Pat Puff, who would never let anything like that happen. Second off, as someone who knows the behind the scenes, nothing Vic could have done. Let's all calm down. And third, Pat, maybe we could give a little charity to the Morning Cup of Hockey boys. Put the link to their podcast in the chat here so everyone knows where to go listen to it after the show. But anyways, I'm happy that everybody can hear us.
Make sure you tweet Vic and you tell him exactly what I said, okay? Even though it wasn't his fault, it's always his fault.
Yeah. All right. We do have a new Dominion Lending Center's poll question up right now that you can all have your say on. It is, who won the Mackenzie Blackwood trade? Did the Avs overpay? Did the Sharks sell low? Or is this one of those rare win-win deals? And that's exactly where we're starting on today's show, as the Colorado Avalanche have made yet another goalie trade. Last week, it was Scott Wedgwood for Justice Annunen, and now the overhaul is complete. They acquire 28-year-old Mackenzie Blackwood from the San Jose Sharks for a package that includes a total of 7 assets going back and forth. It's Blackwood, Giovanni Smith, and a 5th-round pick going in 2027 going to Colorado. The Sharks get Alexandar Georgiev, Nikolai Kovalenko, a 5th-round pick in 25, and a 2nd-round pick in 2026. Georgiev's salary retained about 15% to even up the money here. But the big point here is that the Avs feel like they got their guy and they got an upgrade between the pipes. Do you like the price they paid, Colby?
Yeah, I don't mind it at all because you're in win now mode if you're the Colorado Avalanche. And we actually read your question on our show today. So you can jump on later and see what Jeff and it sparked an entire goalie debate section of the show, which I thought was really interesting. But to me, I think this is a win for everyone. I think, sure, is it a little bit of an overpay for a guy who is not a proven playoff performer? Absolutely. But you look at teams like Colorado, they don't need an Igor Shesterkin to win hockey games because they're just built to do it in a different way. So now you upgrade your goalie with Blackwood. You already upgraded your goaltender with Wedgwood. And so far, he's done a nice job of coming in there like we talked about on this show and on my show. And we talked about just kind of steadying the ship a little bit. You kind of have now a 1A and 1B. I mean, Blackwood is not a bona fide, superstar goaltender, right? But if he plays 55% of the time and the other guy's playing 45% of the time, I think you have yourself a formidable tandem that now you look at the Colorado Avalanche and you think, okay, this team, in my opinion, is now back in the hunt to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, listen, I like Mackenzie Blackwood. I think he can be a 1A, and I think Wedgwood can be a serviceable 1B. So their tandem is no doubt miles better than it was before. The reason I'm going to call this one a win-win is because, yes, Colorado gets their guy. And if you're GM Chris McFarland, hey, I'll give up a 2nd-round pick all day if I no longer have to hear the noise about my goaltending and watch Alexandar Georgiev smash sticks over his post and listen to Nathan McKinnon post-game talk about how they need more saves. But where I'll give credit to Mike Grier in San Jose is they looked at a team who desperately needed a goalie and they jacked up the price and they got it. And the comparable I used is the Jake Allen deal from the deadline last year. The New Jersey Devils got Jake Allen at 50% retained for that half of the seasons from the deadline on and one more year. They got that next year at 50% retained, and all they had to give up was a conditional 3rd-round pick. So when you consider 1.5 years of Allen retained and all they had to give up was a 3rd-round pick and the term, for the Avs to have to pay a 2nd and Nikolai Kovalenko, who I know is 25, a little bit of a journeyman, but he's got 4 goals on the season and he's been playing all right. Blackwood doesn't come with the term and Colorado had to eat money, and they had to give up more assets. I think San Jose did a really good job here because, hey, they have Askarov, they have Kakinen, or not Kakinen, they have Vitek Vanacek as well. They can survive this year. They're not trying to win. For them to get this haul for a pending UFA, I think is great.
And here's the other thing. What did they get Blackwood for? A 6th round pick? That's what it took to get Blackwood. I mean, he was basically what, like a cap dump, or sort of a we just don't have room for him dump out of New Jersey. So when you zoom out, it's really, really good asset management for Mike Grier in San Jose. And you're starting to kind of see the way that he's going to operate throughout this rebuild. And I'm with you. My vote is win-win. Make sure you check out our show when it comes out to see what Jeff Marek thought and what Johnny Lazarus thought. We're like 4 minutes in. I've plugged our show like 17 times. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, good job. I'm going to sound like Jeff Marek here with this history reference, but I saw David Pagnotta make this remark, and I found it really interesting. Back in 1995, the Colorado Avalanche needed a number one goalie. They went out and acquired Patrick Waugh from the Montreal Canadiens. The pieces who went the other way were Jocelyn Thibault, Martin Rachinski, and Andrei Kovalenko. Flash forward to yesterday, and it's Nikolai Kovalenko going the other way. And granted, the Avs are not getting the second coming of Patrick Waugh, but they shore up their goaltending, and the price to pay was a Kovalenko once again. We're going to talk more about him with Stephen Ellis in a little bit, but let's look elsewhere around the NHL, and let's zero in once again on New York. They have been the flavor of the last week, and hey, listen, over the last month, there have been a handful of games where you sit there and go, Is that maybe the game that gets the coach fired on Broadway? And a 2-1 loss to the Blackhawks. I would imagine Johnny, to plug Morning Cup of Hockey once again, was pretty fired up about that loss last night.
He's just like at the part of disillusionment. He's not even angry anymore. He's just throwing his hands up in the air, comparing New York Rangers fans to Buffalo Sabres fans. Not to mention his boy Alexis Lafreniere is well off the 100-point pace. I mean, well off the pace. But Tyler, I'm going to push back a little bit. I don't think Peter Laviolette is getting fired today or tomorrow. I don't think so, because you go back to Gerard Gallant. You're basically seeing multiple coaches that have good reputations not be able to get it out of the core. So they moved on from Jacob Trouba. They freed up some cap space. Go use it. What are you waiting for? This team needs to add. You said that yesterday. I completely agreed with it yesterday. Maybe it's not the coach. Maybe it is the core. And unless you have somebody lined up that you think is going to come in and fix this team, which is just playing with no jam and really no inspiration, when you have that veteran core, I don't know. I believe that this is on the players. I don't think that this is a Peter Laviolette issue, although he does have the reputation for year one being here, year two being here. Year two right now is all the way down here. So I don't think Drury's going to panic and pull that plug. I don't think that the outside noise really bothers Chris Drury. The one wild card, James Dolan could wake up from a nap this afternoon and fire every human that works at all of MSG. You just don't know what you're getting with him, right? He is a very erratic guy. He's shown that he doesn't want to have patience when he doesn't feel like it. That's the only wild card here, but I don't foresee it happening in the next, let's call it 48 to 72 hours.
And the old money ball with Peter Laviolette. There's where they were last year. There's 50 feet of crap. Then there's where they're at this year. The other thing that's kind of going around with the Rangers, and it also involves the Ottawa Senators, is Sens owner Michael Andlauer ripping the Rangers for the, quote, soft tampering that came up last week as the rumor was kind of floated out about Brady Tkachuk being a trade target. Andlauer went on a rant about this is about protecting our fans, our players, and their families. And that kind of, he said, like, Tkachuk and his wife have a baby, all this stuff. And that kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, oh, yeah, no players ever had to deal with trade rumors before. I'll be honest. And the Rangers came out and said, this is an irresponsible accusation. We defer to the commissioner's office. This reeks of Andlauer and the Sens being pissed about the Dadonov thing and just trying to point fingers, being like, these guys should be in trouble too, and they should be in trouble. They're snitching. They're trying to be snitches, and they're bad at it. This reeks of desperation for me. Do you have another take on it?
I do not. This is, I guarantee you there's no paper trail. Larry Brooks has been wrong before, and who knows? Like, I just think that let me ask you this question. You're an Edmonton Oilers guy. Wouldn't you like Brady Tkachuk on your team too? I mean, what team doesn't want Brady Tkachuk in their forward group?
Yeah, no comment. I don't want the Oilers to get stripped of draft pick. I'm against soft tampering, actually, Colby.
You are a big deal. So
Oh, did we lose Kolb? Well, anyways, I'll just move on myself. Let's do a little with the Dallas Stars. Jeff Marek's The Sheet blog yesterday started with this: the Dallas Stars are going big game hunting. And it got me interested in looking around and maybe doing a little mock trades myself of who exactly could they be targeting. But as we sit here, and granted, it's only December 10th, it got me thinking there's really no one on the trade market. I started to look at the pending UFAs, and the big names that are out there, or big cap hits, I should say, are Rantanen and Marner. And there's no doubt in my mind those guys are playing out the year with their current teams. But what makes Dallas really interesting from a salary cap perspective is the fact that Tyler Seguin is on LTIR and can likely be on LTIR for the rest of the regular season. And when you look at their cap picture heading into next year with some big money coming off the books, the Stars could go out and add a big cap hit for the rest of this year and not be worried about too much of the salary cap gymnastics next summer. And as I re-welcome Colby to the show, like, Colby, I look around and I go, okay, who is out there that I would qualify as a big game move or a big swing? And I'm like, what, Brock Nelson is a rental? I don't see it. Is there anyone out there you see as a potential fit?
I've got two guys, and they play on the same team in mind, and it's Kadri and it's Rasmus Andersson. We know what Calgary's looking to do. We know they're in the middle of a rebuild. We saw last year the cooperation between Jim Nill and Craig Conroy when they got the Tanev deal done, right? I think a lot of teams speculated Tanev was going to Toronto, but clearly there was business to be done between these two GMs. Kadri's got a couple of years left on his deal. Rasmus Andersson, has really had a good solid year and has been doing, big work for the back end, the way that he's been breaking pucks out by himself, the physicality even that he brings, sort of, I don't mean running guys over, but just the way that he ends plays, right? I think they'd be two massive upgrades for the Dallas Stars. And are they big flashy names? No. But these types of guys are guys that help you win when the game gets ugly and the game gets dirty in the playoffs. We've seen Kadri be a winner before. So I think those are the two guys to keep your eye on if you're looking to see who the Dallas Stars are going to go big game hunting for.
Yeah, it would be an interesting. And like you said, yeah, they have a history of making moves together. The other thing with Dallas, like right now with Seguin just on normal IR, not LTIR, $2.1 million in cap space. That could grow to north of $6 million if things kind of stay the same out in Dallas by the deadline. So they could be dipping into that before they even have to touch the LTIR. So they're in a great position cap-wise. They got each of their next 3 first-round picks. In fact, in the next 3 years, if you look at the first 3 rounds of those drafts, the only pick they're missing is their second rounder in 2025. So they have draft capital. They have some good young forwards, Marek reference, Stankoven, Bork, and Lion Bichelle. And, I don't know about moving a Stankoven or a Bork unless you're getting a superstar. But if you have those 2 young guys who will be contributing in your lineup and a relatively cost-effective rate for the next few years, why not part with someone like Bichelle? I mean, it'll be interesting to see what Jim Nill and the Stars end up getting up to because they have the flexibility. Let's continue along, Colby, and talk about what we heard from day one over at the Board of Governors meeting. Frank's going to be back on the show tomorrow. He'll give us a big overview of everything he was hearing out at the B.O.G. But his piece yesterday at dailyfaceoff.com I thought was good, talking about how the NHL is going to handle Alex Ovechkin eventually breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record. Frank says the NHL has dubbed it the Great Chase, GR8, get it? Hilarious. And creative planning is well underway with the sign-off from key stakeholders needed at all the levels and things like that. Frank added the working plan would be for the game to come to a full stop, even if it's on the road. They'd have a full presentation made to Ovechkin with Gretzky on the ice and Bettman around the league. They want to see if they can work in, TV networks cutting into the Ovi thing and all of that. What do you make of sort of the NHL making a big deal out of this? Is this the right thing to do? Like basically halt the league the second he breaks the record?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it is. And at first I read it and I was kind of turned off and thought, I don't know about this. But then the more I think about it, right, the NHL is all about goals. Okay, that's how you win a hockey game. You score more goals than the other team. And we are about to witness a record that has stood for quite some time by the one that we have dubbed the Great One. Okay. Wayne Gretzky is the great one who's now being chased by the great eight. And I just think the story is too big. I think the goals are too important. The way that he's done it late in his career, continued to score at a high clip. And Frank made a great point in that article. And I remember this so well. And I was young. I remember the Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire chase that year. And I'm not a Cubs fan, and I wasn't a St. Louis Cardinals fan, but I'm telling you, even at school, they would have those things flashing up on the TVs, which, again, there was no digital cable. There was no Wi-Fi at this point, but still, it was such a big deal, not just in the sports world, but in the United States in general. And so I remember how exciting that was and how many people jumped in. So I think blowing this up and making it a big deal and doing it for a couple of weeks leading up to it, I think is just going to generate more interest. We always come down on the NHL, Tyler, for their marketing, and deservedly so. I actually think this may be the right play and doing what they're thinking about.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like at first, and I think it's partially because, again, as diehard hockey fans, we've been hearing about this for so long. And every time a national broadcast features Ovi, there's talk about the chase. And I kind of like roll my eyes. I'm like, we've been talking about it for so long. It's inevitable. Do we need to do all this? But then I kind of had to take a step back and be like, no. Great marketing opportunity for people who are casuals. This is the all-time goal mark. Like it is a massive, massive deal. And just because us as diehards have been talking about it and thinking about it for a number of years doesn't mean that the NHL shouldn't try to maximize its reach of what this moment will be. Talk about when CBA negotiations could begin, looking like early in 2025, but Frank will have more on that tomorrow. And yes, I see everybody in the chat. Morning Cup of Hockey now out on Apple Podcasts. There's one more plug for you, Colby. You get one more.
Listen, we accused Jeff Marek on the show of soft tampering. I mean, he's been going after the chat. And we've got a little bit of a bone to pick with him about soft tampering. So we went all the way down that rabbit hole as well.
All right, let's move along to our big segment for the day. It's the Next Wave, brought to you by Fountain Tire. You and your family's safety is important. That's why Fountain Tire treats your vehicle like it's their vehicle, whether it's new tires or maybe your engine has a little rattle. Stop in a Fountain Tire and they'll sort you out. And right now, you can save up to $225 on a set of 4 select tires, including Goodyear, until December 14th, plus $50 on any service of $150 or more. Some restrictions apply. Stop in a Fountain Tire or check out fountaintire.com. It's a pleasure to welcome in our daily face-off draft and prospect analyst, Stephen Ellis, as we continue to talk World Juniors. But I want to pick your brain a little bit on that trade we saw in the NHL yesterday. Nikolai Kovalenko, part of the return for the San Jose Sharks, 8 points in 28 games for the 25-year-old. What are the Sharks getting here?
You're kind of hoping that he turns into kind of like a Fabian Zetterlund, a guy that you can throw in there, maybe be a top 6 player because he does a lot of things well. He's not going to be a play driver. Yeah, he did have some good numbers over in the KHL last year, but the big thing for him is just how well he moves. He's relentless. He's at both ends of the ice. He's doing so much. And I think the big thing with him in Colorado this year doesn't have like incredible numbers by any means, but he was playing, all over the lineup, never seemed to play in the same line 2 games in a row because the Avalanche, obviously for all their injury issues, was kind of trying to put him wherever they could. But I feel like the way he moves out there, the way he plays in his own zone, and he does have a decent enough shot. If you put that all together, I do think he's got some top 6 potential for a team that could use all the scoring help it can get.
Well, look, Stephen Ellis, nobody knows the prospects quite like you do. And I want to move off Kovalenko and I want to talk about Beckett Sennecke, right? I mean, this is a guy who gets left off of the Canadian World Junior roster, or at least the tryout roster. He then goes and puts up 14 points in 3 games. So now he's at camp. Was the 14 points what it took to get him to camp, or what's the story behind leaving this guy off?
Leaving it off, good question. Who knows? Like you look at how well he played last year. He's got that 6'4" frame. Like he could be this year's Connor Geeky on the team who can go out there and hit guys, but he's got the skill to kind of play anywhere in the lineup. We saw him at the World Junior Summer Showcase play unbelievable with Jet Luchenko, and I want to say it was Tija Ginla. When Luchenko was the only one there, it's like, okay, I understand it was a summer tournament like a million months ago at this point, but that chemistry was instant. One of the best lines in that summer tournament. I would have loved to see them all together again. When it comes to Sennecke, he's just he's a mean guy out there. He wants to go out there and kill everybody with how physical he is. But then you go look at the numbers, and it felt like he was like he basically had to put him on the team when it was announced that Easton Cowan wasn't going to be participating in the ice stuff because of a potential concussion. But when it comes to just how good Sennecke played the last couple games, like I don't remember the last time I saw a draft plus one player dominate the way he has in the last couple of games. So when they needed a spot to be filled, easiest answer.
Is there any chance he actually makes the team?
I think so. He's riding, this hot streak right now where he didn't get a point in the last game. It was a 6-1 loss and was actually the last game Oshawa's now previous coach was coaching for that team. But I do think that he got the opportunity to either play with Luchenko or reunite with Cal Ritchie, who he plays with in the Oshawa Generals. He's going to have some really good guys to play with. I think he's got a good shot.
Okay. What about outside of the USA and Team Canada? Who are some of the players at this year's tournament that you're geeked up to watch?
Well, Dalibor Dvorsky, if I'm correct, this is his, I think, 5th World Juniors, 5th or 4th, because if you count that shortened one that got canceled a couple of years ago. So he's a guy that we've seen a lot at this tournament. He has an opportunity to become Slovakia's all-time points leader. He's going to need to have basically an MVP level run, but I could see it. Like, you look at the points here, 18 points in 22 games in the AHL. That's incredible numbers. Like, he's going to miss some games due to being at camp, being at the World Juniors itself, but he was on pace for over 30 goals and 60 points, which is very, very rare for an under 20 player in the AHL. So he's riding high. He's obviously been at this tournament many times. I think last year you look at him, it was 6 points in 5 games. Probably should have had a bit more if he had some better players to play with. So Slovakia is kind of my underdog medal contender here this year. I think they've got some good depth at every position, and Dvorsky is going to be the best player on that group.
Outside of the World Juniors, another pretty big tournament scouting-wise is the World Junior A Challenge. Anyone you're keeping an eye on there?
Well, it's a guy that I've mentioned a few times on this show, but he's been hurt so many times. And that's Anton Frundell from Sweden, who, watching him last night, goes out there and he gets, I think it was a hat trick in that game, just unbelievable first game. His second World Junior A Challenge, actually, he played in last year's tournament. It was one of the best players. He was hitting everybody in sight. And that's a good thing, because this is someone who last year got injured at the end of the year, missed the U18s, started the year injured, and then he's got injured again since then. Like, this is someone who's had to deal with so many injuries in such a short time. And I think that's pretty nerve-wracking. I think if you're a guy who wants to, or a team that wants to draft this player, because he seemed like a top 5 pick heading into the year. Now, a lot of scouts don't have him in the top 10 because of his penchant for getting injured all the time. I will say, though, that when he's playing, he's one of the best players on the ice most nights, and the World Junior A Challenge will be an opportunity for him to be the best player probably in the entire tournament.
Stephen Ellis, as always, man, appreciate your time. Thanks for popping on.
Thanks so much.
Daily Faceoff inbox question brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian owned and operated since 1972. And you can get a custom ring built and delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program. It all comes with their unbeatable pricing policy. You can find out more information at charmdiamondcenters.com. Couple of questions over in the YouTube chat. Colby, Joe is in. If the Predators continue to struggle, is it officially too late to make that shakeup move to get them back in the hunt? I'll say yes. It's already too late for them. You need to be sitting there and going, hey, we gave these guys all a bunch of term. Trust the process a little bit. Don't do anything dumb would be my advice to Barry Trotz and company. Your take. You're muted, Colby. It's a tough one for our friend Colb today.
Well, I got to yell a screaming 2-year-old. So I would say I agree with you completely on that. Like, what are you going to do at this point? You're so far out of it. You've got all these new players that are not meshing well together, but your hands are tied. Look at the contracts. So you're not doing anything dumb right now.
Yeah, that's fair. We got another one in here from Steve who says, what do you think about Laine's performance so far? Do you think he can keep up this production? I mean, this season so far, he's played 4 games. Yes, he's got goals in 3 of those 4. He's looking good, point per game guy, fitting in nicely in Montreal. Am I going to sit here and say that 50-goal Patrick Laine is here because, again, he had 4 good games? No, but it is a great story. A guy who hasn't played in basically a year, jumping into that Habs lineup and looking like he's having a lot of fun playing.
Yeah, look, I said on this show the other day that you have to have almost no expectations for him. And I didn't mean it in a disrespectful way. I just meant it that give the guy some time. He's barely played hockey. He's not played more than 50 games as of the last couple of seasons. So I think you hopefully continue to get scoring out of him, but you've got to understand that you're probably looking at a little bit of that adrenaline boost happening right now. And this probably levels off. Hopefully he just gets through the rest of the year healthy and feeling good and really starts to find his legs.
Yeah, one more in here from Joe. I'll handle this one, Colby. He says, I'm worried about the Oilers. Is this unwarranted? Yes, unwarranted. They're fine. They're actually really good. Let's move along. Our poll results for Dominion Lending Center, Colby. Is your mortgage up for renewal? Lock in the best rates by speaking with one of their mortgage experts. Find out more at dominionlending.ca. Over in the YouTube chat, final results of the poll had 38% of our audience saying it was a win-win. 32% said the Avs won. 28% said the Sharks won. 47% of the people on Twitter saying it was a win-win as well. So they're kind of lined up with us, Cole.
Yeah, and listen, we talked about it off the top. We agreed in the first block and the first topic. I think general consensus this morning on Morning Cup of Hockey as well. So I think that the fans and us are in lockstep today.
Yeah, Aaron is in. The stretch coming up for the Oil will be a big test. They take on Tampa Bay tonight, which is a nice segue into tonight's slate. And our daily bets brought to you by Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, there's actually just one pick I like tonight, and it's Minnesota to beat Utah. I'm actually a little bit confused by the pricing here. I know Utah is getting the little bump because they're on home ice, but they've actually been a better road team than home team this year. They're 4-5-2 on home ice, so 4-7 straight up. On the road, they're 8-8. Minnesota has been an awesome road team this season, 11-2-3 on the road. The puck line is plus 220. I'll be honest, I'm probably doing the old ladder play. Give me money line, give me regulation, give me puck line. Let's see if I can juice this thing up with the Minnesota Wild. Atop the Central Division, playing some great hockey. And again, Utah's not a good home team, so that doesn't factor in here. I love Minnesota to beat up on the Utah Hockey Club tonight out in or at the Delta Arena in Utah. That brings us to garbage time, Colby, and you handled today's garbage time. What'd you find for me?
Yeah, so look, I know we don't do a lot of college hockey on DFO Live. I think that's more of a morning show type of thing, but something caught my eye. We've got the Capital Classic on Thursday between Army and Penn State. They're going to be playing it right where the Washington Capitals play in our nation's capital, and a couple of special uniforms coming out for Army and Penn State. And we wanted to give you a look at how cool these are. Because I'm not usually a uniform guy, Tyler. I don't usually make a fuss over the way things look, but these absolutely caught my eye. And if we could flash those up on the screen and take a look. Look, I'm a big fan, Tyler, when branding tells a story. And when you look at those uniforms, I think that branding tells a story. And I see New York Marine in the chat, who's a loyalist to the show, to your show, to our show, probably to the 3 p.m. The Sheet Show. He doesn't like it. He said that they're ugly. And he says that biggest loser than the U.S. Army has been every war. Jeez, he's a Go Navy guy. Okay, so we see New York Marine is obviously a Navy guy as I'm reading through his comment on the chat. But on the other side, Penn State, they are also debuting some special jerseys, and they have the phrase on the back of their neck. And we had to look it up, and what that phrase says is either with your shield or on it. And so I'm thinking to myself, what does that mean? And it's an old Spartan phrase that means that mothers would say, either return victorious with their shield or die honorably in the battle carried on their shield. I mean, if that is not nails, then I don't know what is, coming from the Spartans, which is obviously a very, very long time ago. Tyler asked me before the show how I would have done in those times. I said, I take too many showers a day. I don't think I would have fared well back in those old days, Tyler. But anyways, thought that was pretty cool. Got on those uniforms and thought there was something to show.
Beautiful stuff, Colby. Appreciate that. Everyone in the YouTube chat, you were great. Excited that today's show went off without a hitch. Our afternoon shows will all be good as well. And tomorrow, don't worry, Morning Cup of Hockey will be back live and sounding crystal clear and nice and good. Colby, thanks for filling in these last couple of days on Daily Faceoff Live. Frank Seravalli back with me tomorrow on the show. Enjoy the hockey tonight. It's a busy one around the NHL. And we'll see you back right here on the DFO YouTube at noon Eastern on Wednesday. What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you're going to want to hit the subscribe button to not miss any of our content, from daily live shows with Frank Seravalli to analysis from former NHLers to exclusive interviews with some of the biggest names in the hockey world on Frankly Speaking. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with everything going on in the hockey world.